It's Friday, March 1st. We leaped right into this one. New month, new you. It's Anytime with Ken and Alden, our 15th episode, and today we dive into being emotional is actually cool. I added the question mark, but I know the answer. I'm Cat Knapsack. You sir, are Alden Diaz.
I am. New month, new me. I regret to inform you it's probably the same me. I don't feel much change. I was excited for the leap day because it's just this thing that we get, more time, throw things off, and I think every leap day I've been alive for, I've completely wasted. So here's to March.
Here's to March. My late grandmother would have been 100 yesterday. Was born on a leap day, on an extra day. So we always made that joke. Well, you're only like 13, but we were kids. What did we know? It was It was the 70s. It was the 70s and 80s.
Different time.
We're gonna have a lot of fun talking about crying today. We're gonna get into that. This is Anytime with Ken and Alden. We go live every Friday right here on this here channel. Subscribe if you want to help us reach our goals. The podcast version is available if you want to take us on the go and put us in your ears. And we're going to talk a little bit of news. I apologize again. It's 2 weeks in a row. I've been working on a big project for Fandom Entertainment, and I finally finished it last night about 11:30 p.m. So doing other projects like the news, like I like doing here every week, just for my mental health, I couldn't. I had to stop and play some Fortnite, Alden. Okay.
No, I respect that. You had to go out there as Gaga or Luke Skywalker, whoever, and live your dreams.
Look, I got to tell you something. Since they introduced Gaga to Fortnite, I've been on a winning streak, man. Winning
Really?
like 80% of my matches.
Damn! Look at you. Maybe you should play for some prize money. We talk about this off air, but
oh yeah, let's do it.
Team Anytime. We could get you like an esports jersey.
Yes, yes. I'll come dancing in like those the snake team in dodgeball. Just
yes, exactly. Oh, that's so good. Globo Gym is it global?
Yeah.
Global
Is it Global Gym? Yeah, you're right. I'll bet it's been a few years since I spent some time.
Oh, same. Very much same. I have not revisited. I revisited a lot of the Stiller career.
The Stiller canon. I'm a Stiller fan. I'm a Stiller fan. I going back to the Ben Stiller show and all the stuff of my era, and even his short little 6-month stint on SNL. I knew him then. Flirting with Disaster is one of my favorite comedies. Is that David O. Russell early on? Yeah, a lot of stuff there. Yeah, I'm a Stiller fan.
I like him.
What are you gonna do?
I like him.
He's of an era, but yeah.
He is, and I think he's done a pretty good job, like now doing producing and writing, like Severance and things like that. And
right.
I loved Tropic Thunder. I liked Meet the Parents. I think is one of the best comedies that we've had. Best accessible, something for everybody type comedies.
Yeah, he's the everyman. You see.
Yeah. Is he the everyman?
Don't you get it? He's the everyman. He's the thinking lady sex symbol is what they described him in like an interview in like Premiere magazine or something like that in 1998.
Nobody tell some of our younger viewers that he's a Nepo baby because they'll take that all away.
Yes.
We'll take that from him.
But then I'd be more upset that I'd take that as a besmirching of Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. If people went after Ben Stiller for being a Nepo baby, I'd be like, you stay away from Ann and Jerry, the late great Ann and Jerry. You jerks. Anyways, here you go. Chats are here. Everyone's here live. Thanks for joining us live. We're not a monetized channel yet. We're growing. Like we said, we are here on this channel, planted our flag here. But I had some people ask about, hey, what about something like, Streamlabs or Stream Elements? There's a tipping option in the description below that's for Stream Elements. I don't use Streamlabs. Streamlabs is a company of ill repute. It has a lot of some issues in the past that we don't use them. We don't use them. But down below is the tipping option if you so choose. Because I got that question this past week.
Indeed, and then there's probably only one Ken Knapsack and one Alden Diaz on Venmo. I would wager. You have a very unique last name, and I have a unique first name, so that works too.
I am. Longtime listeners know Knapsack Files. I'm the last Knapsack in the world.
Really?
The last one in the world. My dad,
this is
mom,
verifiable.
Sister. No other knapsacks, to our knowledge. We have done some extensive searching, so the line dies with me. because I ain't
Whoa.
having kids. And that weighs on me a little bit. But also, when you look at the world, I'm like, maybe a line dine is okay.
Alternatively, perhaps a 20-year-old British woman could find you, learn some lessons, and then choose to be knapsack. And I don't say
Yes.
that as a joke. I
Yes.
love that. So maybe that's the
I
way.
didn't know where you were going with right away. I was like, you pairing me with a 20-year-old? What are you doing? No, I like what you're saying. Yes.
She
Yes.
shows up, yeah. Hey,
Mhm.
can I be a broadcaster? And you could be like, no, don't choose this life. Anyway, here's my last name.
Don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, Aldens are the
Yeah.
same. There was never another Alden, and I remember being in high school and Googling famous Aldens, and there
Yeah.
was this guy that had been in, one of Coppola's not really watched movies, and
Mhm.
he was going to be in the Coens' next movie, and that man is Alden Ehrenreich, and then he would play my favorite character. So there you
See?
go.
It all works out. It all works out. I love that Matthew Stokes in chat says, "Damn it, I just Venmoed Alden Ehrenreich $10." Well,
Ah,
there you go.
close. Very
There
close.
you go. There you go. There you go. And a lot of people encourage me to have babies. It ain't happening. Last year I was supposed to do the snip snip. I'm gonna do it probably this year. Though
Supposed to.
you're supposed to. I put it off.
Yeah.
But, it's not an easy decision. It's not an easy decision, but
Oh, certainly not. I mean, like you're telling me, I can't even the responsibility aspect, the what is the world coming to aspect,
you can't afford it. You kidding
the
me?
affording it aspect. I mean, you and your fiance are both artists,
Yeah.
and so it's like
Yeah.
it's not a great time for artists.
Like, great time for artists. By the way, it's Bandcamp Friday. You want to go to Bandcamp and get my comedy album or my music with the Moonagers and support us directly, so we get all of the $8 instead of 60% of it. Head on over there. Yeah. That's which is Then now it's switching into news talk stuff, but it's like that's why I always get the argument of when it comes to like the abortion issue and everything. It's like this isn't just about birth control. This is about money. It's about poverty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who can afford that? God bless those
Yeah.
that can and do and try and want to. Oh my gosh.
It's too much. The climate, the political unrest. Yeah, I don't think there's a number of EPs that the Moonagers could sell that would justify a baby. Maybe.
I mean, I could tell you what, I'd give you a number.
Yeah.
I'll give you a number.
For how many copies would you sit down and have this conversation?
Yeah. I can think of a number, a little Han Solo there. I don't know. I can picture pretty big. But no. This is what I'm always upset at Tommy Tuberville or Tuberville, wherever the fuck he calls himself, of this whole confusion of the IVF thing in was Alabama. It's just like we gonna have more babies. Like, no, we don't, man. And I don't care about the numbers. I don't care if we do. No, we don't. And you don't get to determine it, Tommy, coach.
But then even then, like there's that video of the reporter who's like, but you understand that this would have helped people have some of those. Well, that's a big question. I have to look into that. What are you talking about?
And I never like to make fun of accents. I was Tex Tunney for years. I had a very bad Southern wrestling accent, but everything about him is dumb. He's got to be one of the dumbest elected officials ever, and that's saying something in a world of Boberts.
And right now the bar is in the floor. It's in hell. So,
The bar for smart politicians, and I'll throw but like this bar for smart politicians, particularly on the Republican side, is so low that Shockmaster is tripping over it again.
That's a deep joke. That's a niche crossover joke. Look at this right here. I love this comment. Mediocre college football coach, even worse political person.
Yes.
I wonder if there is like transferable skills from coach to politician. I could see the argument, maybe.
I could. I could. But
it's probably like, we need like Hall of Fame level NFL people, maybe.
Yeah, no, look, coaching is about understanding people and getting a bunch of different people to come together for a shared goal. I totally love the idea. I, as I've said before on this channel, I do despise having to call someone coach if they did not coach me, or I'm not actively being coached by them. Unless it's coach from Cheers. That was different.
That's really interesting. How do you feel about this? Is a tangent, but hey, welcome to Anytime. Are you one of those people that's like, I don't like to call professors doctors because outside of the medical? Like, because
Yeah,
that's always a funny conversation.
yeah. Like what is that? Like, you're not my doctor. Like, if I'm
Yeah.
at doctor, great. And like I said, coach, like if I saw I didn't play football, but the head coach of our high school football team was my health teacher, and he really liked me. He was a kind of a mentor to me for 1 year, and I'd be like, hey, coach, like totally. But if
Yeah.
it's all, I also do not like when I meet people and they're like, hi, I'm like, oh, Richard, and they're like, call me Sparkle. Like you haven't earned your nickname with me. I do
Hmm.
not, do not. If you have a nickname. I'm not talking about what you would prefer to be identified as, what you could.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, call me
Shortened version.
Rambles. Like, no, I don't
Mhm.
know you, Rambles. You're Rod
Yeah.
to me until you earn Rambles.
Yeah. And also Rambles or any nickname. I don't have nicknames like that. I have a couple childhood ones
Mm-hmm.
that have been gone for quite a while. Like when I was baby to elementary school, people called me Beans, like my mom, my cousins, things like that.
That's what we call our chihuahuas around the house.
Bean and Beanie and Beans. Yeah, that was all a thing. But or my grandma called me Choncho or Chonchito. But it's
Yeah,
like that stuff is like all organic. Like you can't make people have the background
yeah,
knowledge or the story. And then if you
yeah.
tell the story, it's like, guy, why are you telling your own story? Or as the kids will say, why are you explaining your lore?
It's
Like,
it's and I admit, and our friend Moon Ager's lead singer Brian Tillers's parents and kids will still call me coach from my coaching youth baseball days. I don't have a problem with that because I know Brian. Brian does not say, "Call me coach." If you call him Brian, he'd be like, "Oh, cool, that's my name." But yeah, no. I admit I'm grumpy about it. I admit it's because
yeah.
I hired one guy one day. This is back in the security days, and I was like, "Okay, Mark, we're gonna hire you on." He's like, "People call me Cap." Like, no, that not around here. No, you're not Cap.
People call you Cap.
Nope,
Do you have
nope.
nicknames that are not like Kenny, like that are not name derivative?
Yeah, Kenzok. Well, I have a friend Jay. Will call me that.
Hmm.
That's because I think my email like looked like that or something on a AIM chat window or something like that once.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kenzok, something like that. My late great aunt would call me Kenny Bunk, which was really close to Kennebunkport, Maine, where George H.W. would take his vacation. So that was always weird. But Kenny Bunk was good. Yeah, so I got him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
Grace has
natural.
got some pet names for me. You guess what? None of you have earned the right to hear them.
Yeah, that has to happen organically. That has to be. I have to be around both of you. She says it, and then we just
Yeah,
fixate on it after that.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that when those little love me do's come through.
Oh, it's
There's
great. Like I think
one
that
day.
my. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no. One day Scrimshot texted me and he meant to text his wife. And it was just like one of those like I'm gonna pick something up at Target type of do you need anything, and I won't
Yeah.
share the name, but it was cute, it was adorable,
Yeah, my brother-in-law, I think my brother-in-law on his phone, my sister is like Buki Pie or something like that, and it cracks me up, the pure corniness of it.
and then Laserbolt brings up this one, Pit Boss. Nah, nah, nah.
Retired.
Retire. And I was fine with it. I've told the story too many times. I got it because I had to wear suits to the show because I was coming straight from work, and Harloff called me Pit Boss, and I said no. Any nickname he gave anyone, everyone always said no, and then it just kept working. The only one that didn't stick was like Upham with Cody Hall. And he was like, please don't call me Upham, but
Yeah.
and then after a while, yeah, it just wasn't. I wanted to break away, but when I started, the Schmodown came around, I had no problem being called that.
But you know what's a great someone in that crowd who we love and we've both worked with is Robert Butler the third, and how that became RB3. Those
Yeah.
organic ones, or like in wrestling, RVD,
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
even the other Van Dam, JCVD. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if you have a name that can become a thing, love it.
Love it.
Love it.
Love
I
it.
love those.
This is what we've just done, Alden. You know what we've done? We've done some bantering.
We bantered.
We
Sorry,
bantered.
everyone. Sorry,
We
Gen
bantered.
Z.
We're gonna get to some conversation. I do want to take a tiny look at the dudes, just because it's horrible out there. But I want to address some stuff. But let us go to this first segment, Alden, and it ties into the topic today. Being emotional is actually cool. We've got an emotional one coming. Alden, what Ben Affleck are we?
Today, and for the benefit of podcast listeners, I will do a better job of describing these because I should be conscious of the fact that not everybody can see what we're doing. Hello, podcast listeners. Ben Affleck. And for those of you on YouTube here, you will immediately get the vibe in his car, looking absolutely devastated. This is a recent one. So it's Ben Affleck, full beard, scruffy hair, just taking a moment before driving away. Probably knows he's being watched because it's like he knows what his life is.
Yeah.
And according to the Google search results, this was him leaving a get together or whatever, or J Lo's house or whatever it was. I mean, they're married, so I'm sure it's kind of his house too, unless that's not how it works for rich people. But he is just forlorn, absolutely just overcome with emotion. And the reason why I like this one is that not only does it tie in with the topic of a public display of emotion, but it's almost as if he's thinking, I'm letting myself be sad again, and here comes another meme about it. Like, he is such a self-aware human at this point that he's like a self-perpetuating brand of this sadness.
Yeah, he's a meme generator, and I love it. I love this photo. Him, it's that arm, the left arm, kind of strong on the steering wheel. You just kind of, this is me most days pulling out of the Del Taco drive-through of why did I do this to myself again? Why am I here again? This is on me. Yeah, one of my favorite hobbies for a long while was going to a gas station, getting a sandwich and a soda, and driving around crying. And everyone's like, ha ha ha. I did that often on purpose. Like it was my place to cry.
Listing it as a hobby is pretty great.
Yeah. The mid 2000s to early 2010s before I finally put the day job behind me. But yeah, I used to just like, I'd go in a car and cry. I'm Affleck in this moment. I feel him.
He's the best. One day, I don't know when it's going to be, we're going to get Ben Affleck on this show, even if it's just a phoner, as they say in radio. And I've met him. Sweet dude. I would love to be like, man, you have been the bedrock of this show just by being vulnerable.
It's one of my favorite segments. There. Yeah, absolutely. Love it. That's the Affleck we are. And I want to. I'm in my Victor French era. Do you know that reference?
I don't. You got me on that.
Victor French. Oh man, I need it. I was going to bring up a photo, and it's a suspicious website. Victor French was the co-star of Stairway to Heaven with Michael Landon in the late 80s.
Oh, and, wow. Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven. Stairway to Heaven is a song we couldn't play on the radio. Highway to Heaven. My beard, I'm overdue for a haircut and a trim. And I've got, and folks out there with the big burly beards, no, I'm at the point where I might not ever cut it. It's hit me. But I'm looking on camera and I'm like, this is unruly. It's unruly. But I have two comedy shows this weekend, so I can't change my look too much. So, but I'm like, I look like Victor French on Highway to Heaven.
You beard havers do not understand the sheer envy that I have. I would have your length constantly, at least that length, if not full wizard. Like, there was a period during the pandemic when Joseph Scrimshaw, for those that don't know, Ken's co-host on SportsCenter, where Joseph went full Last Jedi Luke and had long hair and a long beard.
And a beard. It's great.
Majestic. Like, I would have never stopped.
I told him not to. I told him, don't do it. But he had to start going out for some writing meetings and pitch sessions at studios, and he's like, there's a little bit of ageism, a lot of ageism present, quite frankly. So he's like, a big full gray beard by now.
It's a good point, honestly. Jared is right about this. Jared from Nerd Academy podcast in the comments, my ultimate W against Alden. Yeah, that's the only W against me you have, is that you have a beard and I don't. I mean, it's Jared, it's you guys, it's Nikki Kumar. It's so many people. I mean, all your friends have beards too, or at least most of them can get one. Joe Starr's got a beard.
Great beard.
Great beard on that guy. It's just it's a little unfair.
Rubalcaba has a good beard.
Great beard. Yeah.
Yeah. Ellis could, if he committed, he could. He'll every once in a while grow it in for a couple weeks to a month, and then he backs off. He's got to have that baby carrot face. Speaking of nicknames that people didn't really like. Yeah. Beard talk.
Scotty, Ken does want to discuss the mustache.
No, mustaches got to go across the board. Mustaches are the worst thing in the world, and my dad has had one for 50 years. So, Scotty, unless you want to take it handlebars, let's go handlebars, Scotty. Commit to this. Do it for me. Do it for me. There's a movement to bring back the mustache, and I will squash that movement with every power I have.
Well, there it is. Yep, we'll call him Daddy. Oh, indeed. Well, everybody, tweet us your beard photos, I guess.
Yeah, Scotty's great, by the way. You grow whatever you want. I want something just hanging off his face.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be lovely?
It's a weird mood on the show today because it's a Friday. I finally got a little bit of an afternoon off after a hard week of work. It's great, but I do want to transition a little bit into news zone before we get into the emotional stuff. And I don't have a rundown, a list of stuff. I do want to address the situation from my heart of what happened yesterday in Gaza City, and the now 700 plus, now 110 plus killed. And what's going on. And this is coming from someone, me. I've tried to keep a pretty reasoned approach to the Middle East situation I don't understand. I'm not a foreign policy expert. I'm not a Secretary of State. I've just, like everyone, have been watching this situation unfold since October 7th. And I try to keep a little bit of a reason, it's justice turned to vengeance and this and that. It was just, it's now reached, it long ago, I'll point out, long ago reached a bridge too far. But this is just, it was so heart-wrenching. And to read about I don't care. I said this last week. We were talking about this in the news. Like, I don't care how people slice it, because a lot of people try to slice it, right? Well, the trucks ran them over. Well, they were this just is about the situation, which is now the war has crossed 30,000 Palestinians killed, and now this is just heart-wrenching, and it's one of those got to stop, ceasefire now situations that I wasn't at a week ago. I was saying, well, we gotta, that was me, right? And I just read every bit of the story I could yesterday, and turned my stomach, turned my heart.
Yeah, it's we're so beyond the pale, and we have never had an event like this happening in real time with live access and with the ability to know. Like, I think there's a time when this would have happened, and it would have gotten to our government and our reporters first, and they would have that story would have gotten out, and it would have ended up in papers and things. No, it happens. We know it happens. We know. And then, I mean, the self-immolation of Aaron Bushnell earlier this week as well, after last week's episode at the embassy. The stuff that feels acts of protest like that feel like ancient history to people in my age group, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, that happened when they were protesting this war from forever ago. And now it's like, for that to happen, like one of our Air Force, troops who just,
it harkened back to the monks in Vietnam, which is a bigger story and part of the history as well. But no, I agree with you, and I just wanted to bring it up. It's one of those, like, I think this is a show we have to acknowledge it, and I said this isn't me offering solutions, answers. I'm not an expert or anything. It's complicated, blah 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 blah. Got it. But it's just it's such a the response from the ADF and the government, again, the government of Israel, so just weak on it. I love using that word feckless, but feckless comes to mind wow, they were Russian the supplies. That's not the answer, even if they were. Even if that was this is not what you do.
And it's just like it's also just like the combination of everything, like you said, like you've had this, not that you ever, you never had like, oh, the wrong position on this, but you were like, okay, let's try to parse this. But then it just adds up. And then it is so emblematic of the times that what happened with Aaron Bushnell happens in the same week as this, happens in the same week as Biden's like holding an ice cream cone and saying we should have a ceasefire by next Monday. Right. It's like, it is such a dystopian, gets used a lot, but it really is like late stage capitalist early dystopia for the president to be like, let me enjoy my sweet treat on television and say maybe Monday. Maybe Monday is what I say about
Yeah.
everything I do after Anytime. Maybe Monday.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
Monday. Maybe Monday. Yeah, yeah, no, no. It's and we're gonna talk transition from this very serious issue, but just the news in general and the state of the world. I can't imagine. You just made me think of the conversations I've had. We're gonna talk about layoffs. We're gonna talk. We've talked about AI, this umbrella term for this tech that's starting to take over in ways that a lot of people are like, maybe we shouldn't, and then it's not stopping. And the politicians and the weird obsession with UAPs, which I enjoy to a point, but to the point where it's like where the plot's being lost across so many minds. And you can make the idiocracy references, everything, but just like, everyone's looking around having these conversations of like, it just keeps going, right? Like this isn't stopping, and it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I feel just like a constant state of being mortified, and then I go to the day job and like I'm just trying to either work on other stuff or prep things, but you can't. It's like that constant struggle between trying to be aware and trying to persist. And I've tried to give money and share things, and when I can with what I can give, but it just feels like something is going to break, and I'm not sure when that happens. I don't know if that happens in November. I don't know if that happens, next week. But
it's interesting. You make me think, and I was going to mention her, but she showed up. Like if you even think of a witch, they show up. Doreena's in chat. And I actually had a great lunch with Dorina yesterday. We talked a lot about this. And there's a bit of, so it's okay to survive. It's okay to try to live in the system we have, even if you're trying to save the system. But Dorina's going to come on. We're a couple weeks. We're going to bring Dorina on, and we're going to talk about among other things a cycle changing. There is change going on, and this could actually be a good thing. I'm not quite saying it's French Revolution time. It could be. Even Dorina joked at lunch, "I'm building my guillotine." But we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Dorina's going to be on the show soon.
You said it's not French Revolution time, and I was like, I think putting Dorina and I on air together, it might turn into that real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the one on here going, okay, but guys, you can't actually own the guillotine.
And then it's like, well, and then you're gonna go and tell Grace and be like, Alden and Dorina want guillotines, and Grace is gonna be like, that sounds cool. That sounds like
Grace is gonna be like, I've been telling you, we got to move to Paris anyways. So
you're outnumbered everywhere you look.
Paris to Burbank, yeah. Anyways, I just want to address it. Nothing more, nothing serious. I have no answers. Just acknowledging what's been out there. But even for me, someone who's a calm, cool, and collected viewer of the news, it just was this. It just come on.
Yeah. All you can do is engage with resources, and anyone can hit me up anytime off air. It's not like I am an expert, the furthest thing from, but I've been collecting some resources and talking to some people. Such as M. Shkoukani from Lucasfilm, who is from Palestine and was doing a fundraiser and everything. And I can set you up with the links and everything, and send you some of those resources, and been putting them in my podcast descriptions and things, and just tiny things. Just try to say aware.
Let's put it here.
Yeah.
Let's put it here. All right. On that note, we're going to cry. Or we're going to talk about crying. What do you got?
Both, maybe. Both. So there is this thing that has been bothering me, and I didn't realize it bothered me, and that it had been bothering me for about a decade, if not more, until it got put in perspective. And that is the royal we, the collective we. The royal
we'll
we
never be royals. Oh no!
Wow, that was a
you can call me
my
Queen
generation
cut. Okay, sorry.
Oh wow, be a Lord fan? Lord for
like
pop rock and lyric next week.
I like Lord.
That's a fun one. I like Lord. She's cool. We don't like sincerity, all of us. We don't like sensitivity. We don't like open displays of emotion. And there's a separate conversation about public displays of affection, because some people put affection and romance in its own box. Like, you kissing your partner in front of other people. Like, whatever. Separate conversation. Okay. That's a particular emotion that has its own criteria almost.
Okay.
But sadness, joy, being overwhelmed, being unapologetically proud, all of these things we've started to look down on. And when it was pointed out to me, and I wish I could find the tweet, I need to be better about saving tweets so I can give credit to people for their thoughts. But somebody said, yeah, they did this before, when Anne Hathaway was going for her Academy Award for Les Miserables. And now it's happening again with Bradley Cooper. And I should say, we're not just talking about this in terms of celebrities, but it's going to start there because that's what celebrities are. They're in our faces. They're representative of ideas, representative of things, etc. Real quick, Charlie Ashby, there is something that is bothering me. Alden Diaz evergreen quote. Yeah,
that's your book.
Every day of my life.
That's the book you're going to release one day.
Charlie actually has a fake book cover. I'll pull it up next time for me that is called Annoyed on Principle, because that's something that I said once. I'm annoyed on principle. So the idea that Bradley Cooper, who for 6 years was developing and writing and producing and starring in and directing this film Maestro, which is my favorite film of last year. I really, really love this movie. Cried, watched it, immediately watched it a second time the next day. Really, really affecting, about the great Leonard Bernstein and his wife, Felicia Montalegre, who they had this marriage, and it's a whole thing. And the ins and outs of the movie are not important for what I'm talking about. Although if you don't, if you don't do the deep dive into Bernstein at some point in your life, you should at least watch those PBS concerts and things. But he was in an interview with Bernstein's children, who are all still with us, and they're older, and they were part of this, and they gave him unprecedented access and really were there with him during the whole process, and were proud of what he had done. And they asked him, do you miss him? And on video, Bradley sort of like starts to tear up and is like, yeah, I do miss him because of this, and this, and gives his answer. And then, of course, the vultures come out like, ooh, an opportunity to be edgy. Like, and this guy didn't even know him, and how embarrassing. And, oh, actor brain is so stupid. And, it's so pretentious. And we're going to talk about how we got to this point in terms of the discourse, but I genuinely am so disgusted by the idea that a grown man who, and when you do the deep dive into his story, has battled alcoholism and suicidal thoughts and different things. Like, whatever, Bradley's story is Bradley's story. And, I love the guy. I love Rocket Raccoon. I love lots of his stuff. But independent of my fandom, like, it doesn't need to be somebody who's one of like my guys for me to just be like, that's so gross. Like, I think about people that, Lady Gaga's talked about how she was bullied as a theater kid with lots of emotions and lots of potential. And they make that Facebook group and bully her. They bully Anne Hathaway. And the second you go outside of the lines, which is another thing with Bradley, which I know you wanted to touch on, the second you are no longer what we wanted you to be or what we thought you were in any direction, you can even go to a funnier direction, like Taika Waititi. He's making his movies. Oh, you made that one too big and too silly, too weird. We don't want that anymore. So part of it is we want things the way we want them. And part of it is, I don't know, is this the shut up and dribble but for emotions? Like,
kind of. Yeah. This is great. You put it on the table. Let's pull it apart. We're at the buffet of Alden's emotions, and I love it. We're going to have some, we're going to end up with some chicken fingers of emotions here today. Yeah. I fascinated by the story too. And like you said, this starts with Bradley Cooper, but this is not a Bradley Cooper conversation. He's, some people love him, some people hate him. And yes, there's a lot of this. I quote Paul Simon a lot from the Graceland album, but every generation throws a hero up the pop charts. Just means this is the cycle, right? We throw it up, we praise them, we destroy them. We bring the comeback. Then maybe you stick around. And Cooper was he was the guy that stole a movie. He was the guy that had a show that didn't work. I've never met him, but I do know someone that worked with him back in the day, was close to him, and speaks very highly of him. Not to defend everything. He's also dating. He's left his wife. He's dating someone 20 years younger, and that brings up conversations and all those kind of So this isn't about him specifically, like you said, but it's about the moment. It's about not understanding investment. It's not about it's a sincerity issue to me. About he lived with his character. He was, it's not just there's TikTok went after him, but like newspapers went after him. Reporters went after him. He never knew him and everything. I never met George Harrison, but in November of 2001, I bawled till I almost fell to my knees when he passed. Because this is how it works. His music was with me. His music was with me when I wanted to jump off the parking structure I was now crying about. And yet we have long long fought against this kind of sincerity, this kind of connection, this kind of emotion, and that's where the conversation goes for me. And it does have a little bit to do with it starts with let's bash them. Anne Hathaway for years was a target, right? Anne Hathaway was a punchline. Everyone hates Anne Hathaway was something we even joked about on Schmoes a lot, unfortunately, and it's weird.
Yeah. And what did she do but be a theater kid who had a story and had her dream? And that's the thing, is that it's part of it is also we talk about a lot about media literacy in terms of art, but like life literacy is another thing. Can you understand context? Can you say, why was this person emotional? You look at Anne Hathaway when she goes for her Academy Award, her mother played that role. Like her mother played that part, and then she grows up, plays the part that her mother played on stage, and then wins this award. Like human things that you would think people would understand. Like there are people out there that inherit their father's auto shop, and that's an emotional thing because that's legacy. Or in the case of Bradley Cooper, like he wanted to be a conductor as a child, and now here he is with the children of the guy that he just did this thing about, and they're saying how proud they are of him on behalf of their family. Like it's always loaded, and that's everything in life. There's always more going on than you think there is. Even with us, like people that watch this show or listen to Force Center or anything that we do, there's always 80 things going on that you have no idea about that might just come out for a split second in that moment. And this is the people all the way up to kings and presidents. Like it's just everybody. And we're using celebrities because they're names that people know and they have stories that are more out there. But yeah, when you see like he never even knew him. It's like, okay, I never knew Carrie Fisher, but I cried harder when we lost Carrie than when I've lost anyone in my life for just a myriad of reasons. And
I what you'll think of me when I'm gone.
I will go to Del Taco and say, give me the Ken, and they'll say, oh, we miss him too. It's insane.
Yeah, I think we're affected by this in many different ways. You and I, right here, right now, and what I'm pulling from it is the view of sincerity is what I keep going to. The view of investment, the view of emotional investment. Bradley Cooper was emotionally invested in this, and again, don't want to get into the weeds on him, but think of the way you discuss things in this world. Think of the way we discuss media. Think of the way we discuss the things we love, and we are built up to destroy first before celebrate, before feel. Scotty's in chat here. Scotty is known by many people as the dude with a mustache who cried at a Star Wars thing, right? And what a beautiful thing. And look, I want to be equal across the board. There's some other personalities out there that have cried on camera about Star Wars, and maybe that shouldn't be the thing that we go after them for. Like we are so taught, and we're going to get into some of the things where maybe it comes from in our own lives, our own society, but we're so taught to not be sincere, to not care. Not care. And we're talking about a Star Wars film, but that's how it spins out into the world. If you don't allow someone to care about that, and you look down on them, you joke on them, you think it's silly, you think it's fake, you think it's forced, you think it's shilling, you think it's just silliness, you take that out into the rest of the world.
And it is, like you said, it comes from that root of like, do you allow people to have the essential question is, do you allow people to have the room to feel? Do you allow people to have vulnerability in their lives? And do you respect on a basic level the bravery that it takes in the world that we've created of people to say, this is how it made me feel? I mean, it's so ingrained in us that think about like when you were in like high school or something and a teacher says, all right, we did the reading on that chapter last night. What did you all think of the story? Like kids don't just not raise their hand and like look down because they didn't do the reading. Like that's the easy explanation. But like there's a lot also of like, I'm embarrassed that maybe my interpretation isn't good, isn't right. and those are children. Like
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say that this meant something to me, because what if they make fun of me? Or I'm embarrassed to say it didn't work for me, because what if they make fun of me? And so much of that is, we are two cishet guys on this show. Let's talk about this. Did you ever get from your mustache having father the men don't cry? Like, pull it together?
I did not get it directly, to his
Mm-hmm.
credit. But my dad is a stoic, Eastern Bloc born Ukrainian and Circassian kid, and my grandfather kept his emotions, and my grandfather had a little bit more of the domineering old school. This is the way men do. So I never saw my dad cry. Right. He's when his brother passed in 2012, he didn't cry. He sat there silently. So I didn't have that. My mom is tremendously open with her emotions. So I think that's where I got some of it. And we'll talk about some of the places I've cried, including recently on live streams. But I got no problem with it. But like, yeah, it's I just had this conversation this week with a friend who's going through a lot of changes or trying to change. And a lot of his problems come from what I describe: men put on this armor because maybe we need to, and maybe society tells us to, and putting on armor, this kind of strong, tough armor, is not inherently a bad thing, I don't think, but we become prisoners in that armor. It's to me one of the big subplots of the movie Barbie, and why I loved it so much. And not to take the story off of the character of Barbie or America Ferrera's character or whatnot, but that's why the Ryan Gosling Ken stuff really hit with a lot of people. It was pretty powerful about saying we are the ones locking ourselves in our own armor to the damage of everyone, but also us. And I think a lot of the conversation is about what the toxic stuff does to everyone outside, as it does, and it should be the focus of the conversation. But I keep trying to tell this stuff to the guys like my friend here, where I'm just like, yeah, but you want to know what you're feeling? It's the hurt you've given yourself. It's the men don't cry thing that has destroyed you from within, and therefore hurt other people.
Yeah, so much of that resonates. I was fortunate in that I wasn't ever told that, but I was also raised by my mother and my sister. So it's like it inherently does play into the gender expectations. And my mom is tough, but does let her emotions out when needed. And so I think I got to see a little bit of a balance. I mean, I was always an emotional child. I remember moments that I cried really over nothing. And like, I viscerally remember like what disturbed me as a kid about things I saw or read. And so I had the room to do that, but I also would see my peers either make fun of me or other people. And it always puzzled me, because it was like, where do you put that all? And of course, me being of like the Star Wars prequels generation, we had a parable happening on screen about in a way about bottling and about being trapped in that suit and everything. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I want to go to a couple comments here, just because your great thoughts to our dear listeners come in sometimes while we're mid tangent, and I'm going to try to be better about picking them out. Nikki, our good friend Nikki Kumar, brought up a great thing about history. I've gotten emotional over people who lived hundreds of years ago that I've studied and written about. Smooth brain ass people who, like you say, don't understand investment, connection, and understanding. Like so much of it is that ability to say, how does this relate to me? A lot of the times you're crying for yourself, and you're not necessarily weeping for them. You're weeping for what they gave you. I mean, to touch on George Harrison again, like it's not because you didn't know him. It's like they want to simplify it to that. Like, well, Ken, you didn't spend any time with him. It's like, no, but I found things about me because of what he did. And he was speaking a different language. And again, we're focusing so much on those types of entertainers, but like athletes too. I mean, that movie Air they made about the creation of the Air Jordan has a monologue at the end about how we're going to raise you up and we're going to tear you down and you're going to make us all want to fly, and like all these things that are true, that you will speak to people and make them feel seen, especially in marginalized communities and communities of color, so that if they're gone, then what? It's deflating and a little bit scary when somebody is gone in that way. And why would we look down on that? Because those are human things, and we're just talking about loss.
Yeah.
But it's not just loss. I mean, I love this
Well,
example from Andy. Oh no, please jump in. We'll get this one out.
no. Go ahead with that. I saw that earlier. That's a good one.
Yeah, Tom Cruise jumping on the sofa on Oprah wasn't that weird. The dude was excited about a new girlfriend and falling in love, and we acted like he was a lunatic for being overjoyed to talk about love. And as Andy points out, he is a lunatic just for other reasons, which is true.
But I'm laughing, but that's fair. That's fair. That's my point about even what I was saying about tears in Star Wars. There's probably a lot of things you can go after people for, showing some kind of emotion. And we keep focusing, again, we're focusing on tears. But what I was about to say, and pulling off of what Andy was saying as well, is what Nikki said of just this. It's not about that I was crying over George Harrison. It was because I was invested in something. That's the life experience. This was something that moved me. This is art that connected with me. This is more art that helped me understand something. I'm not crying because George Harrison passed away, a guy I never met. I did interview his sister once. I'm not just crying about that. I'm crying about life, man. and it's investment. That's the sincerity thing of we don't allow ourselves those kind of connections. It's not just the emotion of crying. It can be, you talk about sports. Sports is inherently a silly thing. I get it, but I'm a sports fan, and it is about the journey. It is about the investment in these lives. We have created this silly little thing in which people compete at high salaries, and it's a big television. I get it. It's absurd when you pull back. But unless you've been in it, or unless you experienced it, let yourself. And by the way, I'm not saying everyone has to be a sports fan. It makes a ton of sense. Someone crying at a loss, someone being overjoyed at a loss, including anger. I'll say anger up to a point. You have to be careful with anger. It does lead to things. Oddly, the Travis Kelce yelling at his coach thing could not have been more normal to me. That's what happens when you're invested. Again. Too far? Yes, you always want to be careful of too far. But all that stuff, even as Padme said, to be angry is to be human. It's all part of it. And I think this is about to watch the comments. I went into some of them on Bradley Cooper's thing. And again, I don't know him. Maybe you don't like him, you never will. But to attack his investment, to attack what it meant to me is the crux of the problem.
And what you said about its investment and its life, so much of this is about the passage of time and the fact that we're finite. And so if we don't get it all out there, good, bad, ugly, sad, happy, sexy, angry, whatever it is, if we don't get it all out there, then is it a life fully lived? And I think that's what comes out in all of these ways. Jumping on the couch out of joy, or crying out of sadness, or just being pissed off and throwing something. Like, all of that is acknowledging that you exist. And for people to invalidate that, it becomes really, really weird, and it leads to developing these practices and these ideas. You talked about with the great Ken example in his arc in the Barbie film about patriarchy. Andy had brought that up here in this comment. Masculinity equals stoicism, and femininity equals emotions. In a society with a patriarchy problem, raw displays of emotion will be judged, and men especially will be ridiculed. Yeah, the fear of being othered, the fear of, am I wrong? Am I not the way I'm supposed to be? And how that translates into another aspect that we wanted to discuss is, as professionals, especially as public-facing people, are you literally wrong? Is this against the way we do things when making a show, when writing a script, when working on a project? You'll have jobs try to tone police you, or try to keep you in a box in small ways, like jobs, your day jobs or your theme park jobs, demanding that you smile a certain way, or point a certain way, or carry yourself a certain way, all the way up to meetings I know we've both had, and we haven't even discussed this prior. I just know about, you're taking it a little bit too seriously, or maybe you should focus on this, or people don't like when people cry, and all that stuff is just really damaging.
Yeah. It's I can do the Grove hand point. If you work at the Grove Caruso Properties, you don't point. You do this.
You guide.
you guide. And look, I understand. Whatever. Yeah, no. Sorry, I lost the train of your thought. I wanted to make that hand joke. I lost your train of thought. But in terms
It's okay.
of jobs, yeah. Look, and there's I'm all for, hey, here's some rules of the trade type of thing. I get, but like, yeah, I think real investment is key to that stuff too, especially with what we do. I don't think you should cry. I'm not going to cry every week, but I've been emotionally moved. I've got my eyes watery. I cried a couple weeks on the live stream because my life was not in a good spot, and I was talking about it. I wasn't crying because I was down. I was crying about the people in my life who were stepping up to help me, and what that meant to me. And that was the power of those connections, and that's what's happened. I first cried at 20 on the radio, publicly. I've been crying since I was born. But my mentor left my radio job, and I was sitting down to do my news segment, to his final talk set with me, and I just started bawling because he gave me this chance, My last day of Screen Junkies, a company I was trying desperately to get out of, I cried because I knew that it was, I knew my life had changed. For good or bad, it had changed, and I was thankful for that. And yeah, I've done a lot of tearing up on air.
And thankfulness being that overwhelmed, again, to emphasize again, this is not just sadness or men showing sadness. It's anybody showing anything has been so demonized. You knowing that changed, leaving Screen Junkies, having your this is the farthest from home I've ever been. Like that moment, that's a real thing too. It's like you can win and still be like, God, it's a transformative moment, and have to just get it out somehow.
Yeah, again, it goes to this connection, this investment, this sincerity thing. And the only thing that's sometimes allowed, we talk often about anger and clickbait and rage bait and all that kind of stuff. That's a different conversation to me. The prevailing attitude that has allowed that to grow and work is, I think, is unfortunately one of the hallmarks of Gen X. It's one of our gifts to the world, is we grew up a bit nihilistic. I always say this carefully because I'd say school shootings are more of an actual direct threat and occurrence. But we're an entire generation that was told, don't worry, the nuclear holocaust is coming anyways. And so therefore it absolutely, whether consciously or not, bred into us a level of, that's Gen X, man. That's Reality Bites. That's Daria. That's whatever. We're above it because we have to be above it. And that's not necessarily correct, by the way, but that absolutely is part of it. And this has been discussed a lot in the rise of South Park, which is still going strong, for better or worse. I have no skin in the South Park game. But what connected with us was a sense of, it all sucks. So just say it. And if you dare connect with something, and you don't want to be snarky about it, you don't want to make fun of it, then you just, man, you're not in you don't get it, man. That the emotions were looked down upon from anything, from trying hard at sports, trying hard at your job, trying hard, that's where I think that the prevailing attitude that led to a lot of what we're experiencing now, along with the cultural things of patriarchy and men don't cry and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is something I want to touch on. I'm glad you brought up, that your Darias, ranging from your Darias to your South Parks, because those are not similar shows, but similar themes for this conversation. Do you think that there is, as somebody that got to see it happen in real time, do you think it was a failure of interpretation that people missed? Oh, this is talking about something, and because whether or not you like South Park or not, for anybody watching, like it is undoubtedly one of the longest running satirical comedies. Like it's not just dick and farts, because like
no, and it's good, by the way.
It's good. They're on
smart.
They're on
smart.
a rapid
rapid
pace, like stay current, like really try to. So they've been doing this.
Yeah.
And did we stop on the surface like we do with a lot of things and say, oh, they're making fun of people? That's cool.
I think we internalize it. I think you and I know the Star Wars world intimately, or the Game of Thrones world. We just know the pop culture world. And I was part of my first article for schmoesknow.com, the website in like 2010, was a asshole-ish, snarky takedown of the G.I. Joe movie, down to calling the actors untalented and this and that. I don't know what the hell I was talking about. That's what you did. That's what you did. There was no way. Around the same time, I was writing for WrestleZone.com, writing a weekly wrestling column, and they stopped using me after it's about 10 months of really good, I thought, really good writing, because I never was I didn't take things down. I called things out. I didn't like, they made fun of Vicky Guerrero's weight during a thing. I called out a lot of that stuff, but I was never like, oh, that match sucked. That wrestler sucks. I was like, hey, here's the things I liked on Raw this week. They stopped using me. And that's the byproduct of that era of just like, no. And you got to be above it. It's all about being above the emotions. It's all about being above the connections. And that, I think, clickbaiting, rage baiting, that emerges from that kind of thought, not intentionally. No one in the management of WrestleZone's changed 10 times over. I don't know. I don't remember who it was, what editor it was. But it's like, and they didn't send me an email and say, you're too happy. They just stopped using me. Because also people weren't connecting with the articles as much. So I think that breeds that kind of stuff, the Daria era, which I only highlight out because it was just that Janine Garofalo kind of vibe that was, I'm above it, I'm cooler than you. And I, by the way, Janine Garofalo is one of my favorite all-time comics, especially from that era. It's just that's the vibe, whether true or not, that got taken forward into a lot of this. And so therefore now it's easier to click on a here's why Last Jedi sucked video and go, yeah, I thought that too, than here, hey, I didn't like the movie, but here's 3 things that moved me. That's I think where it comes from. In many ways.
Yeah, and I think it has led, thankfully, to a rise in it will start here, like a rise in our culture. I mean, people are using social media sometimes to combat this, even in small ways. Like, I'll use you and your wonderful fiance Grace as an example. Both of you are not constantly, but openly sweet on each other. Social media selfies together, or even not about each other, celebrating. Taking walks. Here's our dog. Like, here are things, the small things to appreciate, and that is open sincerity that cuts the noise a little bit. If I go through Instagram story after Instagram story of rage or nihilistic memes or irony, and then here's a chihuahua and somebody saying how much they love this chihuahua, those types of things build and build and build and have led to what is often called, there's hope core, which is like, let's watch videos of like dogs getting adopted and like good things. But then there is nice core.
You put this in the notes. I'm like, this is an old thing. I do not know. I've not heard any of this. I get the concept.
Nice core is a term for shows that celebrate goodness and niceness and togetherness unapologetically. So you get things like Parks and Rec, or so like example, the NBC comedies, Community, not nice core. 30 Rock, not nice core. Parks and Rec is nice core. And then now you have like Abbott Elementary is nice core, or in movies, Everything Everywhere All at Once, despite being action heavy and big sci-fi and weird as hell, and they've got dildos flying around, like it is nice core. It leads to a speech of let's just be kind. And I think that people they hunger, they yearn for the joy and the open sincerity. And like, I'll mention this a little bit in entertainment, but like there's a Superman movie being made, and it's like, we need Superman. Like, we really do. We need Superman in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. And we, Andy in the comments drops Bob's Burgers was in there. Eli with The Good Place. JMB with a throwback call to Bob Ross. That's a big thing. That's nice core. Bob Ross invented nice core in a lot of ways. I mean, my generation had Steve Irwin, and we lost him as kids. And
that's
that
a great
was like,
example. You know what? Sorry, could I time out there? That, by the way, people call it out Ted Lasso. That is Steve Irwin is a great example of someone that was not celebrated a lot by my generation.
Yeah.
He was a joke. not to necessarily me, but it was played as the crazy dude in the shorts. And you look back and look at those videos, and absolute tragic what happened. You look back at just the absolute, joy, right? And that was looked at with a suspicious eyebrow raise. Like, what's this guy's problem?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting you bring that up.
Or to immediately, like, people, I remember when I was a kid, like, it was oh, Steve Irwin's crazy. Like, one day, things gonna eat him. Like, people were just waiting for the
Right.
crazy thing, and like a tragedy did happen, but it has become essential, I think, to a certain age group that Steve Irwin led with joy every day, led with helping every day, and literally died doing what he loved, died celebrating wildlife, and saying that we could be better. And I get open. I mean, Charlie brought it up in the comments. Steve Irwin's great because he inspired me, and his children continued right where he left off. It's a joy to watch. Seeing Robert Irwin feed an alligator that Steve had brought to that zoo, makes me cry, man. That gets me. Oh yeah, Nick, I cried when Steve Irwin died. Mr. Rogers, yeah, there are those memes that say like it's Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross, Steve Irwin, and there's one more person that's usually in this four that I'm forgetting, and it's like, one taught us to respect each other, and one taught us to respect ourselves, and one taught us to respect nature, and it's like, what happened, man? Like they bullied. Oh, I didn't even put this in the notes, but I should have. Oh, that wonderful librarian on TikTok, Michael, I believe his name is, who he's the young guy. He's got an afro, and he's always posting about the library and just how great it is, and reaching out to kids, and like PBS just picked him up for some things, and the other day he does a post of like, hey, I'm gonna take some time away from the library and leave and do some other stuff and prioritize my mental health right now. And it's like, he doesn't want us to wish ill on people that bullied him, but I do. Like, I just really like, I cannot believe
you can't turn into Saw Gerrera. You can't turn into him.
You get tech killed that way. But it's just like, it's just, why is that bad? Like, we need that so desperately. And Steve Irwin, as an example, is great because he wasn't the crying example. He was I'm always going to smile. I'm always going to laugh. I'm always going to give grace to things that can't even talk back. Like, he would just see an animal and be like, isn't she gorgeous? Isn't she beautiful? Isn't she, like, all these things, like, just to openly appreciate and what? And for what? So people could be making fun of people?
Yeah. Kingsport Cow points out Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton, part of that.
That's the other one. It's LeVar. LeVar is the fourth one.
Yeah. Of just, teaching. Again, I boil it down to simple things for me: connection, sincerity. And we deny that of ourselves in making fun of other people so readily. And it's not that, poking fun or anything can't be part of the experience too, but we're so ready to do it online for things like this. Going back to our topic of the topic starter, Bradley Cooper, we're so ready to do it that I think you're affecting yourselves when you do that. I think you're just undercutting yourself. Like if you don't need to watch Bradley Cooper crying over Meister, don't. No one's asking you to. But it doesn't need countless TikTok videos. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't.
And I mean, isn't that the whole, like, you could make an argument that aside from the NFL, aside from private jets, aside from Spotify, aside from everything, isn't that the root of the Taylor Swift pushback? Like, even going back to when you were in security and I was in high school, like, even when she was young, it was always the, stupid little girl writing about her feelings. Like, so it of course spreads into misogyny, absolutely, as it spreads into patriarchy, as it spreads into race. There's always a tie to a real world thing. But like, she just writes about her breakups. It's like, which Edgar Allan Poe also wrote about heartache. Like,
I think it's that pop culture cycle thing. It's the absolutely. I don't know when it set in. I don't know. We could trace the history of pop culture when it set in, but it's indicative of deeper problems. Yeah, when it's you again, I always say, even if it's not for you, Taylor Swift might never be for you listening or watching. That's not the point. The point is it is for someone else. She is for someone else. So let them have that sincerity. Let them have that connection. Let them cry on a YouTube video about it.
Let them have it, and it's like, let them have, like, as Princess Leia said at the end of Rogue One, hope. Let them have something. Let them have something to hope for.
Yeah, and let us not look down on investment and connection and the things that matter to us in a crazy world that it could end for all of us in a heartbeat, right? In a press of a button, or
could end next Monday. Where's my ice cream?
Here's my ice cream. Enjoy ice cream, though. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think we're tying it a lot to these public display of emotions, but it like a lot of things, it spills out into your daily life.
Oh, let me bring this up real quick. Charlie says Jim Henson, inspirational pal. Let me tell you, at the museum of the Moving Image in Queens, there is a Jim Henson exhibit. And I went there for reasons I don't need to get into now, during what I genuinely feel was like the best couple days of my life so far, hopefully. And I walked through this Jim Henson exhibit completely overwhelmed. It wasn't like sobbing through it, but like I walked through there and I felt this feeling of like, oh, people are good. Like, we're good.
It's one of the core tenets to the Muppets, yeah. To Henson, yeah, absolutely.
We are fundamentally good, and we deserve things. I'll talk about that with Dune a little bit in a few minutes when we get to entertainment, because that gave me a different but similar reaction. But yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So
no, but
I don't have a solution for this, as we often don't.
It's not about solutions. It's about talking about it and trying to address it. And it was the big thing of the week. And you know, you could easily do a TikTok video that would go viral of you attacking Bradley Cooper or saying he didn't even know him. That's not the point, man. So we just want to talk about it and how it affects our own lives and how it's my tears flow freely. I am invested in snacks at gas stations.
I am invested in snacks at gas stations. Yeah, the Ken Napzok story.
So no, I'm glad we're talking about it. I love it. Cry, folks, cry.
And not just cry, smile, yell, jump, hug, all that stuff. One of the best moments of the post 2020, because it feels like a different universe, was me, Charlie, Nikki, and our friend Reed Devaney all at the Bad Batch season 2 panel in California. And when Gunji showed up in that Bad Batch season 2 trailer, it was like that clip of Rogan and the other commentators at the UFC table. Yeah. Like, we were freaking out over this animated Sasquatch.
As you should. But that's the thing, as you should.
Live, laugh, love, Alden Diaz 2024. Yeah, I invented that.
Love that. Well, good stuff. Star Wars Explained. Alex Damon himself here says, the noise that came out of me when Gunji appeared. Yeah, I was there for that. It was many tears were flowing.
Yeah. Everybody tell someone that you love them. I love that in the comments from Cooper, also known as Boopenheim. Coop, you're right. Ken, I love you.
Love you,
Alex
man.
Damon, I love you too. I also love Ken Plume, because Ken Plume is a quote machine and like has some of the best comments. Look at this.
His investment in quotes should be cried about.
It should. Life's like a movie. Write your own ending. Keep believing. Keep pretending. You've done just what you set out to do. Thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you. Yeah, it's the greatest. You can't beat that.
Glad to be a Muppet and Sesame Street kid.
Absolutely. 100%.
There you go. I love you too, Kingsport Cal. Don't you worry. You say some things that
I love you, Kingsport Cal.
Want to cry for wrong reasons, but I absolutely love you. Invest in people. Invest in people. Invest in memories. Invest in life. We're going to get to entertainment stories before we get out of here. And I'm sorry, you're kind of leading the charge here. I had just one of those weeks where
it's all right. You've
I've
been
just
working.
Ghostbusters, man.
You've been busting.
digging into Ghostbusters. And how the first film is a libertarian fantasy from Dan Aykroyd that's problematic to its core, but still fun. Oh, it's been a week.
So does busted make you feel good or no?
Boston is gentrification.
Wow,
lot of
that's
thoughts
a clip.
about lot
That's
of
a
thoughts
clip.
about Ghostbusters 84. Fun film. Fun film. Wrote a lot about it this week. Anyways, we're going to get to entertainment. And Alden, you got to see the motion picture that everyone is talking about this week. That's right. It's going to be top at the box office charts this weekend. And that is Dune 2. The only thing I know about Dune 2 is Rebecca Ferguson.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about being open with your emotions? I'll be open about Rebecca Ferguson any day. That is a
Don't you be horny on the main.
That is an angelic human. That's the classiest way.
She's on a great run right now because it's not just she's here's what I like about her. Super talented. She is definitely considered attractive, and I would agree with those who consider that. But she's killing it in these interviews. And I know there's the big mystery. She pulled a Carly Simon, You're So Vain mystery of who she's talking about here. I can give a damn. I'm sorry it happened to her. I'm glad she stood up for herself, but I don't care who it is. But
and it's very funny that The Rock immediately did damage control.
It ain't me.
They're all, we got to find out who did this.
That was hilarious. I'm not saying I wasn't glued to my social media to try to figure out who, but I don't care less. She's speaking some truths. She's on this great run where she's just like, you listen to her and you're like, it isn't just that she's a talented actor. She gets life. Like I want to have a pint in a pub with her. Like she just is on this wonderful run, just not as a performer but as a person, and I'm enjoying watching it. But anyways. You saw Dune, and this isn't a review, maybe light on spoilers for anyone out there, though the story's been out there a while. You like this film, you reached your hand into the popcorn bucket. Talk about your experience.
We don't have an AMC, so I did not get the sand wussy, as the kids call it. The Shai Halusi was not available to me. But I saw this film in IMAX. It's generic promotional speak to be like the way it should be seen, but like this one was actually shot entirely. It actually was shot in a real IMAX. In a real IMAX.
Okay.
Not the biggest one. Okay. The biggest IMAX is in New York, as many people have informed me. Yeah. There are about eight sizes, which I did not realize. But this film, I'm not going to spoil anything. Again, it's been out there. Mm-hmm. This film, not since Return of the King, not since Jackson's Lord of the Rings overall, but specifically King because it ended it, have we seen something quite like this. An argument could be made for Avengers Endgame because of what it is, but like that's also the difference to me is that's New York. That's supposed to be us if we had these heroes and that's that's also a build. This being the second part of, because for people that don't know, both the first and second film are the first book, so it's a split. This second part though is absolutely religious. Like me and Nikki and Maddie Gunner and everyone I know that has seen it, we all left and said, I think that fundamentally changed things. And I mentioned it with the Henson exhibit. First thing I texted Nikki was, people are good because we can make stuff like that. It was something that I feel like we will 20 years from now, some kids will say I'm making movies because of Dune, specifically Dune Part 2. It's like, I know you haven't seen the first one, but if you ever have time to watch that one and catch this one, it's like you will be, as a Star Wars guy and as a Thrones guy, because it's very easy for people to say like, this is like Star Wars, but it's not. It's actually not. Like you can see if you love George what he pulled because it comes first. It predates Star Wars by 12 years, the book. So it's like you can see like, oh, okay, got it, especially Tatooine being, Arrakis. But the similarities stop pretty quickly. It is a fascinating treatise on prophecy and on faith and on, it's sort of the chicken or the egg. Like, does destiny exist because destiny exists and therefore we politic and scheme, or does it exist because we politicked and schemed? and or is it both? And somewhere in
Mm.
between those two questions is where Dune exists. And
Hmm.
it made me think of you actually, because you've said
Okay.
before, destiny is just, getting to the next choice. I'm paraphrasing you.
Yeah.
And it is kind of that. Paul Atreides is not Luke Skywalker. He's not Frodo. He's not Harry Potter. He's not any of these people. But he knows that to do what must be done, maybe people should think that of him. And that's a really fascinating thing. So you get all that. The filmmaking, gorgeous. The performances, incredible. Rebecca Ferguson is incredible. And I would give her a nomination if I was in that voting body. And then I want to give a shout out to Austin Butler as my last overall thought, who
Elvis
played Elvis and has been dragged repeatedly for his commitment to the Elvis accent. This performance is as if he said, "I'm tired of people talking about the Elvis accent." Like he
Let me do
goes.
something else. Yeah.
He plays the character originally played by Sting, not the Sting who is retiring this Sunday, but Sting from the Police.
Sting. Gordon Sumner.
And he destroys the role. Oh my God! And Christopher Walken. I'm sorry, you get a dramatic Christopher Walken playing the Emperor of the known universe. And
people forget that Walken's a pretty good actor. He's not a sketch joke.
Exactly. The performance, like, not that he has anything to prove, but it felt like Denis Villeneuve in choosing him was like, hey, people have been doing the voice for too long and forgot that this guy is one of the greats.
Yeah.
And so you get Walken and Florence Pugh share all of their scenes. So I was satisfied on many different levels. And it stunning. I could talk about it all day. I will give you money to hear you and Joseph and Jennifer do a Dune Part 2 deep dive.
Okay, we'll talk rates. I haven't seen any Dunes, book, Lynch or otherwise, of it. This is Alden's pick to click. This is a 2 thumbs up.
Give it that guy. Honestly, like, we could do Best Picture right now, as far as I'm concerned, for next year. I'm kidding. There's a lot of movies to go, but this is. I was like,
do you think it will get that? Do you think it will get that kind of? You mentioned Return of the King, which was dare I say, a consolation prize for Jackson and the trilogy for them overlooking the previous year. You'll get that kind of attention. We're in a bit of a different era. Genres still looked down upon by voting bodies, but
as we've inched it, like Black Panther getting Best Picture nom, Barbie getting Best Picture nom, I think now we're in the place. Whereas Dune 1 ends like Fellowship. It ends with like, and here's the adventure. Like, all cards on the table. And you know what, Ken? I'm going to say something to you as your friend.
Okay. Yeah.
Recommending things to you, it's not difficult. I do it happily. Yeah. But it's always with the caveat in my mind. Not frustrating, but it's the caveat of like, I know you well enough to know that you think people know what will work for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the fantasy stuff, especially. Like, oh, Ken, you should check out Wheel of Time. And you're like, okay, I know that the knapsack reaction is, you think you got me pegged because I like Star Wars and Ice and Fire and all that. So I want you to know from the bottom of my heart, it's not just I know Ken likes space fantasy. It's not that. It is something that I think you will be in your car being like,
I hear what you're saying.
He was right.
But you got to understand what you're trying to suggest to me is getting in my car, going to a movie theater with other human beings who have the worst behaviors, sitting there for 2.5 hours. I got to pee 3 times, and then I could go back to parking. I could have just been home playing Fortnite. That's what you're suggesting.
I know.
That's
there are Dune skins. There are Dune skins in Fortnite. It's a lot to ask. Maybe I might have to go through Grace. I might have to use the
don't because she'll we argue, we not argue like we're a fighting couple, but it's mentioned weekly about she's just like, you're so boring, you don't watch anything, and she's not wrong.
Watch this. In about 2 hours, Grace is gonna be like, Alden said Dune Part 2 was an acting masterclass, the likes of which all performers should see.
She'll want to, I mean, absolutely. That's the thing too. All right. So now I'm invested in your investment.
I'm so invested. You know how like when we see things, I'm
invested in your investment. Yeah.
Outside of Star Wars, you and I, like, we live in this world where it's like, oh, can I just enjoy this? I don't want to turn it into content. I don't want people to. I don't want to have to
Mm-hmm.
produce. And everything. Let me tell you right now.
Yeah.
I see Molly Damon in the comments. Molly, gonna rewatch the first one today and see part 2 tomorrow. Molly, I am jonesing to talk about this.
So many things you could do in that 3 hours. So many things you could do in 3 hours.
Or we could enjoy this tragedy, this Shakespeare. Yeah, but that's true. I don't know what to do about the pee breaks and everything like that. I can't help
It's
you.
not even that. It's not even that. It's just you could go for a walk. You could cook something. There's just 3 hours is a long block of time.
Use your scolding millennial voice all the time. Now I know this is a Dune joke because it's use the voice as a power, but also I think it's very funny and that should be a bit that I do a scolding millennial voice.
Yeah.
And this right here, from Maddie Gunner, Timmy Chow's old Timmy T. Timothy Chalamet is a guy that I've always acknowledged was extremely talented, but I was always like, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I'm not the target. And I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. This is the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He's great as Wonka. I didn't see it, but no.
Ken is dead. It's like baseball's lost to him. Cinema. I don't think baseball's lost to you.
No. What JMB's referring to is about 10 years ago or more. I stopped with everything, and I can't explain why. And this it actually was longer. No, it was about 10 years ago, so maybe even longer. Anyways, point being, I'm a huge fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They switched channels one year from FX to FXX, and I had to like upgrade it or something like that. And I watched the first episode of that season, love it. Texted my friend Joe, hey, we shared quotes, and then I couldn't watch it the next week. I did not watch it till last year. I stopped watching it. I just was like, I had that fun. It's over.
I'm gonna put that in the future topics list. Is Ken fundamentally thrown off when the routine is changed?
No, it's not the routine. What happened, and because it's with baseball too. After a while, I just was like, I've done this before. I watch from spring training. I root for my team. They get to the playoffs. They win or don't, and I'm either happy or not. I've experienced that. I'm good, and I moved on.
Interesting.
That's what it was with movies in the 90s, early 2000s. That's the reason they brought me into Schmoes, is I was a movie dude. I'd go see everything. Every Monday, go to Winnetka 20 in Pacific Theaters, Winnetka 20, to watch movies by myself. I did not miss anything that came out. And then one day I was like, I did it all. I experienced it. I'd go to movies. I'd get involved. I'd get invested. And I'd have fun with it. And I'm good.
That's so fascinating.
That's where it went. That's where it went. That's where
fascinating.
Yeah,
absolutely. You fascinate me. Maybe that's why I hang out with you. I'm just doing a long study.
Yeah.
Molly says, Ken, watch Who Cloned Tyrone, and let's talk about it. It was so good, and I was so late to it. It's on Netflix. John Boyega, Tiana Paris, Jamie Foxx, blaxploitation, sci-fi comedy. Super cool. Ken will get to that in about 2030.
But I could also rewatch the World War II doc narrated by John Boyega.
That's true. That's true. And maybe you're like my mother with Princess Diana docs. My mother subscribed to, and I think it was an Amazon. You know how they have those add-on channels?
Yep.
She got an add-on channel for like $3.99 a month. That is just royal stuff. And that's
bonkers. That's wonderful.
What else? What could be left? You know her story, possibly better than her son's. Like at this point, like what is left?
Yeah.
Andy with a shout to David Lynch's Dune, which, if you've ever wondered, what if he took the job to do Jedi from George Lucas? That was a year after Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
So
that would have been it.
That's
been it.
Yep.
I don't look. But just based on the conversation we just had, I don't want to be a downer. I love that you're all invested. The film seems great, wonderful. I love this. I love it.
Cinema.
Love it.
Cinema. Nikki with a shout. It's a solid documentary, and he would know.
It's a solid doc. Yep. I'm telling you. Watch more docs. And from happy entertainment news, though, we're going to go to another round of layoffs.
Yeah. I will move this up. Like I mentioned, Superman started filming. That's our last happy bit before we jump in there. Formerly titled Superman Legacy, James Gunn has announced by the time he finished the script, it was better to just call it Superman. Tying back into Nice Core, we need Superman, especially because of stories like these. Now, double whammy here for people in the games industry. Lots of people in our viewership and listenership are gamers. You and I are gamers to varying degrees. We have here Sony starting the miserableness. Sony laying off 900 PlayStation employees. That's across several divisions. That's a total of about 8% of the people that work for them, including folks at Insomniac Games, who just delivered Spider-Man 2 and crossed 10 million copies sold. Game of the year several times over from different organizations and publications. A smash. They've done 3 of those Spider-Man games so far and have been called the best comic book adaptation games outside of Batman. And it's like, what more to be done? We'll talk about that. And then EA coming right behind with 670 employees saying they're sunsetting and moving away from IP. Bullshit corporate language. Unannounced. I should note unannounced Star Wars first-person shooter, which for the week prior it was pseudo leaked, if not, we'll never know for sure, but would have been Mandalorian based, not necessarily the show, but Mandalorians plural. And so if you were wanting to be a Mando in a first-person shooter, that's done. And yeah, it's the corporate language and the question that a lot of people are rightfully asking in game dev or in punditry around game dev. So you can't be tiny and survive, but you also can't be the best in the top of your field and survive.
Right.
Like you can't deliver unprecedented success and be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Not under the system and not where we're going. And I think it's only going to get worse, and there could be an explosion. And we make jokes about French Revolution time, but I think in a lot of industries, this is the stuff that's got to give stuff that's happening. That this is the boss. Profit is the boss. Laserbolt says that. Another case of record profits, and they still need just a little more. It's as simple as that. I'm not an economist. I'm not Robert Reich. I'm not that. It's as simple as that. Gaming. I mentioned, I work occasionally for Fandom. You've worked for Fandom in the past. They're a company that bought Screen Junkies after the collapse of Defy, and they don't do a lot of movie stuff or TV stuff anymore because the higher ups, the higher ups, like, it doesn't make money. Gaming makes money. It's the only thing making money. And so what 10 million copies sold, right? Yeah. I joke, but I play Madden Football, EA. I play Fortnite. I play Red Dead. It's clearly a profitable business. But the answers we have to answer to the shareholders, right? We have to show profit for this quarter. We have to show, and everything you said, that corporate bullshittery. We're right directing our company. We're right sizing. We're
going to sunset and move away from this and focus on things that have a place in the future. I'm sorry, who designs the future, if not these people? And
I'm one of the, people lose jobs. And sometimes people have to lose jobs. Sometimes people are fired for it. I've fired people too. I've laid off and I've fired. I get it, right? I get it. And I think this is one of the big changes to me. I think years ago I used to be a little like every time there's a round of WWE layoffs, someone was like, guess what? Like, that's happened. That's life. We all lose our jobs. And I can live a little in that lane, but I've changed out of that lane a lot into this. It's just because we're feeling it. And these are the conversations I'm having with some of the older folks in my life, who are like, all you got to do is work hard. That doesn't exist anymore. That's not the case anymore. I love a good work ethic. No one with a minimum wage job is lazy. They usually have 3 jobs just to survive. And then you see this. And then I've had those questions. I had it asked to me this week. I don't understand. Amazon laid off people, but they're so big. Yeah, you're right there. You pulled into that lane. You're getting it. You're getting it. This has something's got to give.
Something has to change. I do want to take a second and read the quick statement that Insomniac Games put out because I thought it was extremely classy, especially because they were hacked by some just feckless cowards, and their unfinished work ended up on the internet for several projects. And so they're dealing with that, and I've been trying to damage control and persevere, and then this happens. So like several other games teams across Sony and PlayStation Studios, Insomniac Games was impacted by yesterday's layoffs. There are no sufficient words to express our feelings about it. This is a solemn and unprecedented moment for our studio. We are focusing our energy on helping everyone affected through this challenging time, and this is the part that I really loved. For those who are hiring, these are great people seeking new roles who made important contributions to Insomniac's history. We're extremely grateful for them, and they will be missed. I love that they, were like, hey, like trying to, put them over a little bit, because it's like even the bosses no longer have the power over their own teams in a
Yep.
lot of ways, and it's just like, and I get that.
Yep.
That's what it means to be a subsidiary. I get it.
We're all owned by like 4 companies,
Yeah.
like Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, all those the company. Like my security company that I worked at, that bought another. They merged. We were owned like by BlackRock.
Yeah.
Like we're all owned by 4, and I like that comment you're saying, but it's just like, and part of it is what we got in this country. Someone posted this again, that where you're scrolling and you see it. Maybe I should save it, like you said earlier. In UK maybe, and maybe Charlie or someone correct me. You're laid off, but hey, we're gonna help you. Go to a re-education center or something. Japan, you're laid off. We're gonna help you get another job. All that kind of stuff. Whether right or wrong, you fill in the details. I'm just saying the spirit remains in this country. It's like hand in your key card. Your medical benefits are done. My medical benefits at Collider were done, but 2:00 on the Friday I got laid off. I had surgery scheduled for the next Tuesday that I'd do out of pocket. Like, thank you, you're done. Like nothing.
Yeah, it's insane, and you're lucky if you get severance these days. You're lucky if people even consider you for other things. Like, I worked at a place where the place I started my career and was at for 5 years, and was on 2 successful different shows, 2 different formats, launched a station, not just a show, was helped the COVID transition, all these things. I have been turned down for 11 different things since leaving that place.
Yep.
They just, it is what it is.
And as Laserbolt says, it's in fashion to fire all the good workers who've been around long enough to make a decent wage and replace them with cheaper, less skilled labor. Absolutely.
Yep.
Maddie has a UK answer. Over here, if you made redundant, which is their cute term for it. I love that. Learned that from the British Office. British Office taught me that. Over here, if you're made redundant, usually given a week's pay for every year you've worked there. Any holiday pay you vote and benefits until your termination day. Yeah. Look, and I'll be. Yeah, we get some packages. Some people get packages. Yeah, absolutely. That's a thing here too. But the coldness with which it's handled is always questionable, and it's not necessarily by the people in front of you, because I've been there too. I have had to pull, a 20-year-old college kid who's just trying to survive and go, it's sorry, your hours are cut because our company wants to keep the profit margins going. And I have to cut 100 security hours while also providing even better service to our client. Like, Yep.
And of course, it's just, as we talked about 100 times, and as I'm sure will come up in future episodes, particularly when we have Darina on, none of them are going to help protect that margin. None of them
get ready when Darina comes on.
None of them will say, "Oh, let me take the cut. Let me give." It'll never happen. So
yeah, there you go. Sad news. Sorry to all those affected. And here we are again, another great round. And where will they go? That's the thing happening too. The industries are going away or being drastically changed. There's no other place to go.
Now, quick audible, real quick, because I know we're running a little bit long. Story of our lives, but and I didn't put this in the rundown, but I wanted to give you the floor to give some love to the late great Richard Lewis.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. I spoke on it on my Blathering Live show on my own channel, and 20 Minutes of Coffee. Richard Lewis passed away at 76. He had a heart attack, passed away in his sleep, according to reports, but he'd been battling Parkinson's disease and a just myriad health problems over the last couple of years. Back surgery, shoulder surgeries, and replacement surgeries, hip replacement as well. An absolute legend in the game in terms of stand-up comedy, and someone who we talk about investment and sincerity and emotions. His emotions were his act in an era of observational humor, which I do enjoy. I do enjoy the Seinfelds of the world who helped kind of that structure of comedy grow. Richard was himself, and the cause was mental health for him. Like, he tried to experience it all as a recovering alcoholic, and someone who Jamie Lee Curtis, his co-star on their sitcom in the 90s, said, not only did he make me laugh, he helped me get sober. Like, Richard affected people. Anyone, I know people in my own life. I've never met him. I've met a lot of stand-up legends, but never had a chance to meet him. But Michelle Boyd, my buddy Michelle Boyd, tweeting out when he would come to Chateau Marmont. He was so nice. So many stories of him just being nice and being friendly, and that being a legacy for a guy who at times was very troubled is a thing I'll take from. And he influenced me. I went through a big Richard Lewis period in the early aughts when I was figuring out who I wanted to be as a comic. You want to be careful how far you're taking your own therapy onto stage because you're not all Richard Lewis. And then by the time Curb Enthusiasm shows up, and it's one of my all-time favorite shows, and just him and Larry being real life friends since they were teenagers, but really born 3 days apart in the same hospital. They just didn't know each other till later in life. But being brothers for 50 years just made some of the best comedy. So he was an influence on me. And sad to see him go, but what a life lived.
Yeah, well said indeed. I am woefully uneducated on his stand-up, although of course seen him in films like Robin Hood and I've seen him
watch his stand-up, man.
And,
yeah, it's a different style because it's not bit. It's not. It's a ramble in a wonderful way. So check out some of his specials from the 80s. They're great.
Well, cheers to Mr. Lewis on
Cheers,
a life
Mr.
well
Lewis.
lived. If anybody has any last-minute questions to throw in or anything like that, now's the time before we start to close.
Now's the time, indeed. While we're waiting to close and get into our final segment, I will. Speaking of art, it is Bandcamp Friday, so if you want to pick up some music for the Moonagers, we got 2 releases on there, or my comedy album on kennapzok.bandcamp.com. In My Day Special Edition, recorded live in London with a lot of Force Center fans in the audience, is available, and all on Bandcamp Fridays. If you purchase it, whatever price, I get all of it. Where other days, Bandcamp is very fair. But other days, obviously Bandcamp has to take something. And there again is another company doing great things that was acquired by another company that has already laid off a lot of the staff, and the future of Bandcamp is in doubt. So support art while you can.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, we got a question here from Dylan Barry. Name the last song that made you cry, and he says, or movie show. Let me pull up my Letterboxd.
Well, I'll tell you the last movie that made me cry, and I enjoyed it, and I think it's got some problems, but I had never seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, and again was not fully invested in Ghostbusters growing up. I liked it, and it's got a nostalgia problem in a way other things don't. In a way that Force Awakens was accused of, it does not have that. Force Awakens does not have the same thing going on. There's so many new things in Force Awakens. Ghostbusters Afterlife has a little bit of a nostalgia problem, but dude, Egon showing up at the end, I was teary eyed, man. It got me. It hit me. It got me.
That's a great choice. That is a great choice, and I'm looking at mine here. I mentioned The Last Repair Shop on last week's episode, that documentary on Disney Plus that did make me cry. Since then, I didn't cry during Dune Part 2. I was more so just in a state of awe. But Bleeding Love. Bleeding Love made me cry. It's the film that stars Ewan McGregor and his daughter Clara McGregor, and they're on a road trip together, and he's driving her to rehab. And it's the father-daughter story, semi-autobiographical with some elements from Clara's real-life struggles. Dad stuff, man. Easy target. Songs, anytime to wrap it all back in. Anytime that I listen to the Resurrection Symphony by Mahler, because it is used in the third act of Maestro, and I sobbed for about 15 minutes. In that movie, and so now the song makes me cry. It's always associative stuff.
Usually, I don't cry at songs a lot. I'm usually singing along too loudly and horribly. So,
but if something like Yoda's theme comes on,
if it hits me the right moment, your father would be proud. From Giacchino and Rogue One is I've met Michael. The music's great though. That gets me.
Yeah. Did you tell him? That it makes you cry?
He knows how great it is.
Nice dude. Did some Muppets music. And so did his son.
He knows how great it is.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Any last minute questions? I'm looking.
We got one. We got a wrestling one. You and I are wrestling fans. Dylan asked this. What shows?
Oh,
I have a bar show tomorrow night, a Good Night Bar. Joe Starr returning to comedy, and I'm at Flappers Sunday night, 5 o'clock. Early show, really early
Joe
show.
Starr returning to comedy?
Joe Starr returning to stand up.
Wow.
Joe Starr different. Will McLean says since he was brought up earlier. Thoughts on Sting, the wrestler, having his final match this weekend. Is it his final match?
Yes.
And that's nothing on Stig. It's on just the wrestling industry.
Totally.
Okay.
Yes, it is. For again, everything is final when you say it. Everyone says it is. My thoughts are: I was too young to see Heyday Sting, certainly too young for Surfer, and I was also too young for Monday Night Wars Crow Sting. It's just the reality. But I was in kindergarten when Vince bought the company, so I missed the whole era.
Got it.
But Sting to me was always like this. There was this allure, when he was in TNA, and like he was this legend that everyone talked about as being on the same level as the legends I knew, but never went to that place. And I always respected it. And then when he went to that place, I think they really like dropped the ball with how they handled it. And I always felt bad. And then for him to have gotten hurt in 2015, but then comes back and it was like, oh, that's the end. Like he didn't even get his final ending. For him to come back and have what is, I don't want to speak for all wrestling fans, but what is being called, and I would agree with this, the best nostalgia run ever produced. People have thoughts on AEW and they can criticize different things, and it's a very different product, and all opinions within reason are valid as long as they're respectful. But one thing I think is undeniable. I have never seen a Legends run for a 65-year-old man. It's not even like he's in his 50s. A 65-year-old man, maybe even older now, 66, 67. The nostalgia run handled like this. Every single young guy that he has been with has both learned and also like sold their asses off and helped the character and created this aura. And this week on Dynamite, he came down from the rafters, which he hasn't done since, I don't know, 2000, maybe 99. Yeah. He came down from the rafters, and it was just like, man, I love seeing him go out on his own terms. So I'm happy, and and he seems like a sweetheart of a man. So
yeah. He, for all accounts, a good guy. I was a WWF kid growing up, but I would watch NWA and WCW. So Surfer Sting was great. He was everything, and he was always the other guy, right, on the other team for me. And looking back, and yes, he did end up getting into going up north to New York, as they would say in the territory days. And I was hopeful for that run. I thought I thought that was a great thing, and you're right. For a lot of reasons, it didn't work out as it maybe should have. But I now look back, I respect him more than ever for saying no to Vince McMahon for so long. Eventually, when at the time they were the only game in town, so whatever. But for during the heyday of saying no, that means a little extra now to me. I respect him a lot, and I'm glad he's getting this run. I haven't been watching, but that's it's intriguing. I might have to watch some of the highlights.
And he's been giving back, like to give back, and to never want to be the guy. Like it's like public knowledge. Like they've written about it in like Players Tribune, and Darby, who's his tag partner, has been talking about it, and his mentor, as his mentor and his partner, he's been saying like to see an old guy treat the industry well, and the industry treat him well. And to give more than he took, and to always defer, and to want to know. It's what you talk about with like knowing your place and change. Like, Sting is the guy that like knows that these guys deserve a spotlight, and like, what can I do? Like, he didn't even want to win as much as he has in this last run, but it was the young guys saying like, no, please, it would be my honor. It would be my honor to be a part of it. So,
who's the last match against?
So he doesn't want to do a singles per his own choice. He has had creative control over this last like 6 to 8 months, and he didn't want to do a singles match because he doesn't think he can. So it's him and Darby defending against the Young Bucks. And so the Young Bucks are going to be as the people that made the company. They're going to be the ones that are like either going to job or maybe not. Maybe he goes out on his back. I don't know.
Should always go out on
yeah.
your back in wrestling, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's always got to be the case. Love that. Okay, cool. Great question. We're almost out of here today. We are going to leave with our final segment, as we always do. Our Pop Rockin' Word of Wisdom, brought to you by my radio show, Pop Rockin' Radio, live most Saturday nights. Tomorrow night, I'll be doing comedy, so I won't be doing the show. But check it out on mixcloud.com/Pop Rockin' Radio if you like music. And today, I went back away, talking about before your time. And I figure with today's theme being about sincerity, investment, but also things and people and moments in our life in which something simple and full of joy was attacked and looked at negatively down the line. But at the time, this is one of the more popular songs. You heard it everywhere you went. I got Bobby McFerrin, and don't worry, be happy. A great jazz performer who maybe has at times an interesting relationship with the song, but it's his calling card, and he stands by that. And he wrote this wonderful little ditty. And here's the little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy, Alden. In every life, we have some trouble, but when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. And that, I think, is something that we should take forward in these troubled times. We need you, Bobby McFerrin. Do an updated version.
Absolutely. And not just be happy, as we've discussed during the show, be happy unapologetically and loudly.
Mm-hmm. And loudly. That's it for this week. More shows on the way. Thank you all for supporting, for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The podcast is available. Look for it anywhere you get podcasts. I think Apple finally approved it, but it's in other spots as well. We'll see you. Bye-bye.